They told you prison is for punishment, rehabilitation, justice. But what if I told you the truth is darker? Behind those iron bars and locked cells lies an economy built on forced labor, hidden from public eyes. Not jobs, not wages. Labor at pennies. That's how industries were born. That's how entire communities got built. That's how everyday products you use were made by people who never saw freedom. Welcome to Origin Core. If you like stories that expose what powerful institutions don't want you to know, hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on notifications. Because today's story will make you question everything you believe about work, freedom, and justice in America. Long ago, not just decades, but centuries, when slavery was formally abolished in America, many believed the chains were broken forever. But the system didn't end. It transformed. The same economic hunger that fed slave plantations found a new home: the prison. After the abolition, states and private interests discovered a loophole. People convicted, often for petty crimes, often disproportionately from marginalized communities, were forced into labor. And employers realized cheap labor, no regulations, no rights, no accountability. Factories, farms, railroads, they all needed manpower. Prisoners were ideal, vulnerable, voiceless, desperate for mercy. They worked in mines, built infrastructure, processed goods, made furniture, manufactured clothing, packed products that would be sold across the nation, all for slave wages, or sometimes no wages at all. The cost of security became the profit for industries. At first, public outrage flared, but the system was careful. It didn't look like slavery. It looked like punishment, rehabilitation, justice. But the law said the punishment for crime included labor. If someone broke the law, society accepted their labor because they were criminals. Who could defend the criminal? That's how the economy justified cruelty. First turning point. By the late 19th and early 20th century, many local governments were bankrupt. Reconstruction ended. Industry struggled. Then corporate America stepped in, offering contracts to supply materials cheaply. They discovered prison labor was a gold mine: low cost, virtually no oversight, and public ignorance. That's when private companies and state prisons formed partnerships. The profits soared. For them, inmates were not humans. They were machines. Machines cheaper than steel. Over time, whole towns and supply chains were built around prison-made goods: textiles, furniture, tools, building materials, license plates, and government-issued items. Products you still see. Products you still buy. But prison labor didn't stay hidden. Families, activists, journalists began to notice patterns: high incarceration rates in certain minority communities, harsh sentencing for minor crimes, repeat offenses. Coincidence? Or a system designed to feed labor demands? Arrest quotas, mandatory minimum sentences, parole denial, they all started to look like supply management tools. Second turning point. Civil rights movements, protests, legal battles exposed parts of this truth, but the system shifted again. Prisons got privatized. Corporations now run jails. The argument changed. It's about efficiency, safety, rehabilitation, but real numbers told another story: low pay, abusive working conditions, forced overtime, no proper health care. And the more the system expanded, the more money flowed, not to rehabilitation, but to corporate boards. And then came mass incarceration, not because crime increased, but because demand for labor did. Policies changed, laws tightened, minor offenses started carrying heavy sentences, bail systems favored the wealthy. Poor communities got trapped in a revolving door: arrest, jail, labor, release with debts or record, repeat. Meanwhile, public-facing marketing showed prison labor as rehabilitation programs, training for inmates, job skills. Bright brochures, soft slogans, like helping inmates reintegrate, teaching responsibility. But inside, the reality was stark. Long hours, dangerous conditions, forced labor for a pittance, no rights, no dignity. Suspense shift. As demand for cheap products grew, so did the pressure to keep prisons full. Some conspiracy theorists say there were tacit quotas, certain number of inmates required to satisfy labor demands. That's why sentencing became harsher. That's why war on drugs, three-strike laws, and zero-tolerance policies spread like wildfire. Not to reduce crime, to maintain a labor supply. If this is true, then the freedom America promised when slavery ended was a lie. A new system replaced the old, just with bars instead of chains, uniform instead of whip, contract instead of auction block. The players changed, the mechanics stayed the same. By the late 19th and early 21st century, prison-made goods flooded American markets. Cheap labor kept production costs low. Corporations profited. Wall Street cheered. Globalization amplified it. Many companies shifted overseas, but prison labor provided a controlled domestic supply that avoided international scrutiny. The Made in America label became ironic because much of it was made by people who weren't free. Third turning point. Some whistleblowers came forward. Former inmates spoke of brutal conditions, false promises, debt upon release, ruined lives. Families tried to sue. Journalists exposed contracts. Minor reforms happened, but each time, for a better image, not genuine change. Wages increased by pennies. Conditions slightly improved, but the core system remained intact. The profit model still depended on incarceration. Today, hundreds of thousands are still behind bars. Many work long hours for cents. Their product, clothing, phone cases, license plates, even parts for your car, ends up in your home. You might not see them, but you are part of the economy that treats people as disposable labor. And here's the real question, one that no commercial video will ask. When you buy that product, are you supporting Made in America or supporting a system built on modern forced labor? If this shocks you, leave a comment now. Do you think rehabilitation should include real wages? Or is prison labor always exploitation? I want to know what you believe. Because unless we talk about it, nothing changes. If you think this matters and you want more stories like this, history stripped bare, truths hidden under comfort, subscribe to Origin Core. Hit the like button if this opened your eyes. Share with someone you know. Because knowledge is the only way to break the chain. And maybe, just maybe, one day those bars will open. Until then, remember, sometimes freedom isn't just about open skies or unlocked doors. Sometimes it's about whether the work you buy was done by a free hand or by someone still behind bars. Thank you for listening.